Good morning, everyone. Apparently, this is day 2 of coffee and UFOs in the morning. So maybe we'll make this a thing. This is a little bit later than I would normally be, doing my routine, but has some different distractions today. So I finally have got my coffee and I've got my UFO paranormal news. And the first story is pretty intriguing. It's amazing how every day now there's something interesting in the news to cover, from small to big, but there's always something. I love it. It's really exciting. All right, so the first story I want to cover this morning is a blue UFO that was seen over Honolulu, Hawaii. And this was actually originally written on December 31st by Alyssa Blair on Hawaii News Now, and is recently updated. And so there's a full video here. So I'll play the video for you. And I'll tell you now my general take on this is that just from the video itself, it looks like it could just be a kite, or some other possible drone, but the report says there is no notable noise. But then again, if it's far enough away, they may not hear the propellers of the drone. But the witnesses do describe chasing this object in apparently in a car. So it's going at a fair clip. But we all know that, especially if you've flown in planes and look out windows, depending on the direction you're moving or against another object, it can create the illusion of something moving faster than it actually is, and that might be the case here, just because it's so far away. So our sense of distance can be distorted, in more particularly, our sense of speed can be distorted. Imagine an object is coming towards you and you're moving away from it. It seems the object is going slower than it actually is. And here in the video, it doesn't really explain exactly what direction the object is moving in. So there's not much information based on this article to work with. And it's dark. There's no way to do any kind of triangulation here. So this is one video, and I'll show you another video in just a moment. I mean, you can see with the camera there, you can't even catch a star in the background. The only thing you have to measure as far as distance goes is you have the grass in the frame. There's really not much to work on there. But this video here is a little more intriguing. It's freezing up there a little bit. Let's see if we can get this going. I don't know if you ever noticed with YouTube, but the toggle is not the best. So again, we've seen this before, shaky camera. Now here, it looks like there's a red light associated with this blue UFO. And my best guess is that it's a triangular or crescent shaped, based on the shape that we can see here. I wish I had the original video so we can go frame by frame in more detail, but you can see here it's more triangular. So it is interesting, but then again, why couldn't it be a kite? Could it be an airplane, and that it's really well lit? I don't know about that. It seems that, the whole thing is glowing. And I don't know what kind of kite, unless it's fastened with the multitude of LED lights, would glow like that, which is possible. But the first witness in the video that I first showed you mentions that it drops suddenly into the sea and doesn't make any noise at all. Now, I wonder if that red light that we see, is that sort of like a flashing light that you would see on an airplane? Okay, so interesting. I think what's most important about the story is what the eyewitness says here. And she says, something in the sky, what is it to her family? It's 8:26 p.m. near Halikela Avenue in Nanakuli. Not long after a woman named Mariah spotted what looked like the same object passing over Princess Kahanu Estates. So we have multiple eyewitnesses. I look up and I was like, oh, she said. I started calling my husband and them because they were all in the garage. I was like, hey, come look at here. Come look up there. See if you see what I see. They all said, yeah. The 38-year-old says she's never really been a believer in UFOs, but the bright blue object had them so intrigued they jumped in the car and started following it. I don't know what it was. She said this was going so fast. The journey ended less than 3 miles from where it began. She says they stopped the car on Farrington Highway in front of the Board of Water Supply building after the object appeared to drop into the ocean. It went land in the water, whatever it is. She described it as being larger than a telephone pole. That's huge. Again, how does one know how far away an object is? It could look bigger if you make the assumption that it's further than it actually is, right? But she said she never heard it make any sound, and that's really interesting. We called 911 for have like one cop or somebody for come out and come check them out. And then she said later on, this is interesting, my husband went look up and seen the white one coming. She said the white one was smaller, was coming in the same direction as the blue one. So that makes it a little bit more intriguing. I wonder if someone else was following up with a drone to try to get close to this object, or if that was in fact a second craft, a white craft. I remember when we were, I guess I was probably about 19, and we were in Long Beach Island, New Jersey, and we're looking up, and there was this kind of flash in the sky, and I think it wasn't a meteor. That's my best guess. It was this giant glow, essentially circular, and then it kind of faded away. And one of the first things people did, there were local cops walking around because it was really busy in the tour season, and they start talking to whoever is nearby, any authority. Hey, what is that? What did you see? Was that a bomb? Was that an explosion? A UFO? And the first thing this young officer says is, I didn't see anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's nice to know that things have changed, I hope, in most cases. But the fact that was his first reaction was, I didn't see anything. I don't want to see anything. He didn't want to even have that conversation. And it probably wasn't even a UFO. It was probably just a meteor that had entered the atmosphere and exploded. So, but that mentality is fading away. People can approach cops, and cops seem to take things a little bit more seriously when, locals come and share a report. And I think that's a good thing. I don't know how much that has to do with the recent progress in the last few years with the ATIP program. I'm sure that has helped as well. But I think as a cultural, and forget mainstream news, but as a culture, we speak differently amongst each other about these things. Over the many decades, there have been police chiefs and sheriffs and law enforcement agents. There have been pilots and military personnel that have come out in local news and national news and reported these things. And I think as a nation collectively, we're much more comfortable with discussing these topics. So I'm glad that she wasn't ridiculed after reporting this to the police. And another article here. This was interesting. Control group outperforms mediums in psychic test. This came out January 4th, That was yesterday. This is from Big Think, written by Derek Bears. A control group outperformed professional mediums in a psychic test. This contradicted previous research the team performed, in which mediums scored above chance levels. For the study, every volunteer had to guess the cause of death after being given 3 choices. So, the approach here in the first place, I think, is misguided. I'll go over that a little bit more here in just a moment. It refers to the magician and renowned skeptic James Randi, who passed away in October. In 1996, he famously offered $1,000 to anyone who could prove they had paranormal abilities. Over time, the prize money grew to $1 million, and you would think, "Oh my gosh, $1 million! If I have this ability, I'll just prove it. It's that easy, right?" How do you claim to fix a car if you can't fix a car, right? So I get the on the surface level, I understand the approach here. Okay, a recent study by researchers in Petumula and La Jolla, Jesus, please forgive my slaughtering, assessed, and this is why I need more coffee, assessed whether mediums could tell what had caused a person's death. The short of it, a control group of non-psychics performed better than self-professed mediums. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to go back to this. So what they did is they asked the mediums, on the one hand, to find out if they can make a determination of someone's cause of death. But this is making an assumption that using the scientific method, they're making the assumption that they understand how psychic abilities work. So, we're not talking about gears here, and we're not talking about 1 + 1 = 2 or measuring weights, right? Obviously, mediumship or being a psychic is there's an abstract aspect to it, because even the psychic and the medium, it's a feeling, it's impressions, things that come through, and they don't have levers. They're not it's not a car, they don't have tools and gears that they can share with you and say, "Hey, use this," because it's all up in the mind, and the mind is very fluid. And how they receive information, if the scientists don't understand how they actually receive the information to be informed about how someone dies, then the study itself is flawed. The study, in a sense, is oversimplifying it, making the assumption that a psychic is like a encyclopedia, and they just open the page or Google something, and then it pops up. It's not that simplistic. Not the algorithms are simplistic, but the actual search method, and that it's built on a structure that any one person who studies, algorithms can understand. It's such a mystery. How do you study a mystery if you don't understand its mechanics? So if somebody can speak, I'm not saying that we don't know the skill levels of these apparent mediums or psychics, but if somebody can commune with the other side, it seems to me that you are more of a receiver. So if impressions are coming to you from these apparent ghosts or spirits from the other side, then you're not really in control. And in a control setting like this study, you're trying to force something that you don't have control over. How the scientist is saying, you psychic perform, but what the scientist should really be saying is, you spirits, you ghost perform, but they can't. And I don't think they have control over that. Now, I understand that you would think, okay, with a certain number of test subjects, they would be able to get some of those, right, and they make the right guess about how somebody died. But again, we don't know the motivations of those, assuming that they're real spirits on the other side. So you're trying to force something into a box that isn't square. It's not even a shape. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. I just think that it's really lacking in the study here, and I don't know how one goes about proving it, because I don't blame the scientists necessarily for the approach, because how do you study this phenomena? Here they say overall participants were able to detect the cause of death of deceased individuals at statistically robust above chance levels, contrary to our expectations that mediums would perform better than controls. The controls performed significantly better than the mediums. But here's the interesting thing. I'll go back up here. Okay, the research team behind the study, led by brain researcher Arnaud Delorme, has previously analyzed brain activity, skin conductance, respiration, heart rate, and peripheral blood flow of self-professed mediums. During one study, 2013, 4 mediums produced results above chance, seeking a neural correlate to psychic powers, they wrote. One medium showed a decrease in EEG frontal midline theta waves during accurate responses, suggesting a possible decrease in executive functions associated with successful responses. A limitation of that experiment was its low statistical power due to the relatively small number of participants and number of trials. So in 2013, there was some tantalizing data that came out of the study suggesting that, oh, maybe mediums do have. So then, okay, again, we're back to, is the formatting of the study itself, is the approach wrong? And do we need to take a more variable approach? I suspect if you were to follow a psychic, document them as you would a documentary filmmaker, follow them as they do their work, and they work with people, and they sit down and they commune between their client and the other side, that you're not constraining the comfort of the receiver, being the psychic or medium, or the person that the spirit or ghost is trying to commune with. A ghost or spirit might have more motivation to commune with one of their loved ones that are still alive. They could care less probably about a scientific study, and so perhaps they're not motivated. I mean, I am projecting here, but if you're trying to study a phenomena that is really out there and strange, then you have to accept the fact that your rationale based on your understanding of the scientific method might be flawed. So I guess we'll just keep on doing this, but here's my understanding is that so many people go to psychics and they have an experience that where a medium confirms something that it's not something they can just guess, like, oh, someone in your family likes to surf. But they might say something like that, and then it's like, oh yes, oh, and then this person lost a pet, and it was a dog or whatever. And then they start getting more and more specific. It gets to the point where they might even share a topic of conversation, something very specific that you and this deceased person had. Chance, just like the study shows you, can only go so far. And when people come out of a productive meeting with a psychic, a session, and they've got this checklist of so many hits, that tells me that there is something going on there. Either the psychic themselves thinks they're communicating with a ghost or something, but perhaps they're actually, the medium is actually more of a psychic, and somehow tuning into your own brain waves and picking up information if that's possible. Or there's a spirit on the other side that is just highly motivated and is really giving the psychic good information. Because again, there's another factor. Maybe sometimes the communication between the psychic and the other side is not so clear. They don't have complete control over that. And other times it's stronger and more, prominent in how it presents itself, its messaging to the psychic. So many factors. Okay, moving on. But I'd like to see more studies like this. And again, I know parapsychology is being studied, but I think the only way to study it really is just to do a long-term study where you're filming, you're recording sessions with a psychic, and you're following their career and their many encounters. I think that would be the best way to do it. Okay, Amity Horror House Review. Old ghost story gets an enthusiastic retelling. I like this article by Tony Sokol. It adds a little bit of levity to it, which is enjoyable. What can be said about the Amityville, Long Island horror house that hasn't been said before? Not much, apparently. But Disney Plus's special shock doc, Amityville Horror House, has a great story. A great gory time going over it again. A great gory story. First, they tell us what we already know: the beautiful house in the affluent suburb just an hour from Manhattan, and why I haven't gone there is I'm besides myself now. I can't believe I've just never taken a trip. Okay, just an hour from Manhattan is known as the most haunted house in America. Then they tell us more about what we know. The 1979 film Amityville Horror was a huge hit, breaking box office records, which made ghost hunting movies accessible to everyday people. Not just ghost hunting movies, but reality ghost hunting television as well. But it brought unwanted attention to the town of Amityville, a community so tight with people so caring they can't hear the sounds of 9 rifle blasts at 3 a.m. on a quiet suburban street. They can't hear the sounds of 9 rifle blasts. Point made. Okay. The narration is positively delicious. It's like the old unsolved mysteries on crack and dusted with meth. I think that's a little bit of an overkill. I'm guessing he's probably never done crack and or meth, but okay. Stretch of imagination. The high point of this comes early when the narrator's voice cracks on the words, what could have driven a man to murder his entire family? So I'm looking forward to this. It's on Discovery Plus, which I don't have. But, maybe I'll watch it because, quote, who can resist stories about secret doors, possible pathways to hell, gelatinous mystery droppings? And that can be interpreted in many ways. An extension no motion picture can capture without John Waters' trademarked smell-o-vision. The facts have been covered before, but the special rolls them all out as new. So, yeah, this makes for an excellent primer. Now, he does go on to make the case that the documentary filmmakers are focused more on the paranormal aspects of it and not the more mundane explanations for how this all came about. In the documentary had already pointed out that DeFeo, priest, went to work after... The documentary had already pointed out that DeFeo went to work after committing the murders. The flies had time to congregate where the corpses were decaying in that time. So what's this referring to is that people say that there's flies and that's a paranormal aspect of the home. But obviously, if you leave dead bodies rotting, yes, flies can probably lay eggs. But how many generations later can they live there if people encounter them again? Is that it? That once the flies have nested, that they're there forever? I don't think so. And then again, it's a question of hyperbole. How much of these reports do we know to be accurate? Yeah, so I'm going to check this out if I can. But there's so many pluses. We have Disney Plus, we have Netflix. I've been hesitant to consider HBO Max And it's like we cut our cable, but if we keep subscribing to plus channels, then it'll be just as costly as cable. And a lot of these plus channels, I'm attracted to one or two shows, but I don't need the whole package. So I don't know. Perhaps this will be something that we'll rent if it's possible. So anyway, that's pretty much it. And I want to just mention one more time that I think that this year is going to be a really interesting year. I think that we're going to see some major progress in regard to UAP studies and that sort of thing, UFO task force, because what my understanding is that the reason the UAP situation is being taken seriously by people in Congress is because they're finally recognizing it as a military threat. I've said before that it's totally possible that this idea of promulgating a military threat idea is to simply pump the Pentagon with more funding, right? I don't know if that's necessarily true. It depends on how this report goes. I think more accurately, I think you have members of Congress that think that maybe like Marco Rubio, maybe Russia or China has technology leapfrogged us, which would be scary if that were true. It seems to me that if it is our technology and not extraterrestrial and not another nation, then we've been really irresponsible with how our test pilots have been flying these things around and exposing themselves to be captured on camera by our own military. I think that seems like a serious oversight and mismanagement of a highly top secret program. So I'm based on the performance of these vehicles, I'm still more inclined to think that that these are real extraterrestrial craft. I can't rule out, obviously, it would be foolish of me to rule out the fact that these might actually be, a craft from another nation. But considering how advanced our spy programs are and technologically how far the United States has been ahead of others in other regards, you would think that we would already be aware of that. And maybe that's being covered up. Maybe we are aware of high tech. But I don't know. I don't think that's the case. Oh, hey, Marco. I don't know if you're still there. Yeah, I decided to start doing a little coffee and UFOs in the morning because I just had a really hard time scheduling to get guests, and I've been really busy. So I thought I'll just do my morning routine and hang out here and just chat. So if you have any comments, I'd love to hear that. I'm still unsure about these craft. I think that the gimbal, the Tic Tac are likely extraterrestrial. But are you from Hudson County? Okay, cool. No, I'm not in New Jersey. I'm in Queens. So but that's why I say I should have gone out to Amityville at some point, and I can't believe I haven't done that and checked out the Amityville horror house itself. And maybe just do a drive-by and take some pictures just to check it out. But haunted homes, I love the idea of it, and I think it's fun. But I do remain skeptical, particularly when, in this case, there's a murder involved, because I'm more inclined to think that DeFeo went crazy. But not necessarily possessed, and really it seems like that story took off because a priest sort of just projected his idea onto this haunting of the house, of the possession of this person, and it wasn't really based on anything other than his preconceived ideas of why human beings would behave in such a way. I'm not ruling it out, but they filmed the original Amityville movie down the shore in New Jersey. I watched it when I was a kid. Yeah, I remember it scared the heck out of me when I was a kid. there was this, and I have to say the first movie I remember just being utterly frightened, nightmares galore, was Nightmare on Elm Street, the original Freddy Krueger. That really got to me. But Amityville was another good one. I can't remember, what was the sequel to the Amityville called? I thought that one was kind of lacking. It didn't really scare me as much. All right, so that's it. I'm gonna sign off here, Marco. Thanks for joining the chat. I appreciate it. Do you think the story is true? A lot of people say it was made up because the owner. Yeah, I think with Amityville, it's the real horror is the murderous aspect of it, and not a poltergeist. I know there's probably a lot of people there that are upset by that comment. That's just kind of how I feel about it. Thanks, Marco. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, I mean, it could definitely be, financial situations. I mean, how many times do we see people, do horrific things, scams, murder, hurt others just because of financial trouble? People commit suicide when they lose all their money. So yeah, I think the real demon most of the time is us. Now, I think that ghosts are real. I think spirits are real. Possession, however, I don't believe in possession in the sense that something literally jumps in your body, but perhaps there are entities that can influence your behavior. I can't rule that out, because if I believe that there are spirits or ghosts, then clearly, we're talking about something that's completely out of my range of knowledge. We're talking about other dimensions, which we don't live in, at least within our five senses. So there's no way to know for sure. All right, that's it. I'm going to finish up my coffee for the day. It's been a late start. Thanks for hanging out, Marco. And for everybody out there, as always, live in the mystery. And yeah, maybe I'll do this again tomorrow. Okay, take care, everybody.